I need to tell you something that's been eating at me for years. Something that still keeps me up at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering what the hell I really saw out there in the Iraqi desert. They told us it was a national asset, classified, above our pay grade. But I know what I saw, and I know what they're hiding. My name doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that you understand. There are things happening in those remote corners of the world. Things our own military doesn't even understand. And when you see them, when you're standing there in the middle of the night watching something that shouldn't exist, they make sure you never talk about it. This is what happened to me at a combat outpost near the Iranian border. And this is why I can never go back. If you're into real military encounters and unexplained phenomena, hit that subscribe button, because what I'm about to tell you will make you question everything you think you know about what's really out there. It was my third deployment to Iraq, and I thought I had it figured out. Keep your head down, follow orders. Don't get attached to anyone, because you never know who's coming home. By that point, I was numb to most of it. The crack of gunfire in the distance, the smell of burning trash from the waste pits, the way sand gets into everything, your boots, your weapon, your lungs. They assigned our platoon to combat Outpost Viper. 32 of us dropped in the middle of absolutely nothing. The nearest town was 4 hours by convoy, and between us and Iran was just flat desert, scattered rocks, and the occasional shepherd who looked at us like we'd landed from another planet. Cop Viper wasn't much. Concrete T-walls stacked in a rectangle, sandbag reinforcements that were always half collapsed from the wind, 3 guard towers made of plywood and hope, and an operations center that was really just a trailer with too many radios crackling, static and not enough air conditioning. The diesel generators ran 24/7, this constant low hum that you stop noticing after a week. And the smell, JP8 fuel mixed with dust and sweat, you never got used to that. Our mission was simple: monitor the border, report suspicious activity, and try not to start World War III. Most nights, the biggest threat was boredom. We'd watch thermal feeds of smugglers moving goods across the desert, call it up the chain. Maybe a drone would buzz overhead, and that was it. Some nights we'd get a scattered pot shot from someone testing our response time, but nothing serious. Captain Edwards ran the show, mid-30s, prior enlisted, the kind of officer who'd rather avoid paperwork than deal with actual problems. He told us on day 1, stay alert, stay alive, stay out of trouble. That was his entire leadership philosophy. For the first month, it was exactly what I expected. Patrols, guard duty, watching cameras. The most excitement we had was when Private Yates accidentally popped a flare during an equipment check, and half the base thought we were being hit. I remember thinking this would be the easiest deployment of my life. I was wrong. It was late October when I saw them the first time. Maybe 0200 hours. I couldn't sleep. Never could adjust to the temperature swings. Scorching during the day, freezing at night. So I did what I always did. Grabbed my rifle and took a walk along the perimeter. The base was dead quiet. Just the generators humming and 2 guys up in the towers pulling guard. The stars out there were unreal. No light pollution, no haze, just this endless blanket of stars, so thick you could barely see the black between them. I was standing near the south wall, smoking a cigarette I'd bummed off Martinez earlier when I saw them. 2 objects, moving across the sky. At first I thought maybe it was a plane, but there was no sound. And I mean none. Out in that desert you hear everything. A truck engine 5 miles away, boots crunching on gravel, even the wind shifting through the T-walls. But these things? Absolute silence. They were diamond-shaped, sharp edges, geometric, like someone had taken a kite and stretched it flat. But they weren't reflecting light. They were absorbing it. Like they were made of something that just swallowed every photon that touched them. They glided, not fast, not slow. Just smooth, deliberate, like they were on rails. I stood there, cigarette burning down to my fingers, unable to move. My brain kept trying to rationalize it. Drones, experimental aircraft, something classified we weren't briefed on. But nothing I'd ever seen moved like that. And then they vanished. Not flew away, not faded into the distance, just gone. Like someone hit a switch and erased them from reality. I dropped my cigarette and ran. By the time I got to the operations center, I was out of breath. Sergeant Chen was at his station, headphones on, eyes locked on a monitor showing grainy feeds from our perimeter cameras. "Chen!" I said louder than I meant to. He pulled off his headphones and turned around, annoyed. "What? Did you see that? The objects in the sky?" He stared at me like I'd just told him I saw Santa Claus. "What objects?" I explained it. The diamond shapes, the silence, the way they just disappeared. He listened, but I could see it in his face. He thought I was losing it. "Probably a drone," he said, turning back to his monitor. "Or some Air Force toy we're not cleared for." "It wasn't a drone." "Then what was it?" he asked, not even looking at me. I didn't have an answer. "I'll put it in the log," he said. "But unless we got radar hits or someone else saw it, there's nothing to report." I wanted to argue, but what could I say? I had no proof, no video, no witnesses, so I went back to my bunk and lay there in the dark, staring at the plywood ceiling, replaying what I'd seen over and over. I didn't sleep that night. The next few days I couldn't let it go. Every time I was outside after dark, I'd scan the sky. I started volunteering for night watch, taking extra shifts in the towers just so I could look. Martinez noticed. "You good, man?" he asked one night when we were smoking behind the operations center. "Yeah," I lied. "Just restless." He didn't buy it, but he didn't push. I started using the PVS-14 night vision goggles during my shifts, scanning, searching, waiting. The green wash of the optics made everything look alien. Shadows stretching wrong, heat signatures blooming and fading. But I kept looking. A week went by, nothing. I started to think maybe I had imagined it. Maybe the isolation was getting to me. Maybe I'd been out in the desert too long and my brain was starting to invent things. And then it happened again. It was just after midnight. I was on patrol with Martinez and Jackson, doing a routine sweep of the perimeter, checking cameras, making sure the sensors were operational. Jackson stopped dead. "Hey," he said, his voice low. "You seeing this?" We looked up. There it was. One object this time. Same diamond shape, same silent glide. It moved directly overhead, maybe 500 feet up, close enough that I could make out the edges. Sharp, clean, wrong. "What the hell is that?" Martinez whispered. None of us moved. We just stood there. 3 grown men with rifles and training, frozen like kids watching a magic trick. The object passed over us, slow and deliberate. And then, just like before, it vanished. "Did that just..." Jackson started. "Yeah," I said. "It did." We reported it immediately. This time there were 3 of us. 3 witnesses. They couldn't ignore it. Captain Edwards called a briefing the next morning. He told us Brigade had been informed and they were looking into it. He said it was probably some classified aircraft, something we weren't cleared to know about, but I could see it in his face. He didn't believe that. None of us did. Over the next 2 weeks, the sightings continued. Not every night, but enough. Different people, different times. Always the same description. Diamond shape, silent, gone. We started calling them the visitors. And then, one night, everything changed. We stopped just seeing them in the sky. We saw them on our cameras, close, right outside the perimeter. And that's when Command got involved. That's when they told us we weren't allowed to engage. That's when I realized we weren't the ones doing the watching. We were being watched. The morning after the 3 of us saw it, Captain Edwards called an emergency briefing. Everyone was there, all 32 of us crammed into the operations center, which wasn't built for that many bodies. It was hot, cramped, and everyone was on edge. Edwards stood at the front, arms crossed, looking like he hadn't slept. "All right, listen up," he said. "I know some of you have been seeing things in the sky. I've been getting reports and I've passed them up the chain. Brigade is aware, Division is aware, and as of this morning, we've been instructed to maintain operational security and continue our mission as normal." "That's it?" Jackson asked from the back. "We're just supposed to pretend nothing's happening." Edwards shot him a look. "What do you want me to say, Jackson?" "I don't have answers. Nobody does. But until someone higher up tells us what's going on, we do our jobs. Understood?" Nobody answered. We all just stood there, frustrated, confused. "Dismissed," Edwards said. As we filed out, Martinez leaned over to me. "This is bullshit," he whispered. I nodded, because it was. That night I was assigned to the operations center with Chen. He was on camera duty. I was monitoring the radios, It was supposed to be a quiet shift. It wasn't. Around 0130, Chen sat up straight in his chair. "Hey," he said, his voice tight. "Come look at this." I walked over to his station. He was staring at one of the thermal camera feeds, the one covering the south perimeter, the same area where I'd first seen the objects. On the screen there was a heat signature, but it wasn't moving like a person or an animal. It was hovering, just sitting there, maybe 20 feet off the ground, right outside our perimeter. "What is that?" I asked. "I don't know," Chen said, "but it's been there for the last 5 minutes." We both stared at the screen. The signature was faint, almost like it was trying not to be seen, but it was there, definitely there. "Should we call it in?" I asked. Before Chen could answer, the signature moved. Fast. It shot across the screen, covering maybe 200 meters in a second, and then stopped again, just hovering. "Jesus," Chen whispered. I grabbed the radio. "Tower 2, this is operations. Do you have visual on the south perimeter?" Static. Then a voice crackled back. "Negative operations. Nothing on visual." "Check thermal," I said. A pause, then "Holy shit. Yeah, I see it." "What is that?" "We don't know," I said. "Keep eyes on it." For the next hour, we watched that thing on the cameras. It would move, stop, move again. Always silent. Always just outside our walls. And every time we tried to get a visual with our eyes or night vision, there was nothing there. It only showed up on thermal. "This doesn't make sense," Chen said. "If it's giving off heat, we should be able to see it. Unless it's only giving off heat we can detect with sensors," I said. Chen looked at me. "That's not how physics works." "Yeah," I said. "I know." By 0300, the signature was gone. Just vanished off the screen like it had never been there. Chen logged it. I reported it up the chain. And then we sat there in the dark. Neither of us saying anything. Both of us thinking the same thing. This wasn't going away. 2 days later, they arrived. 3 black SUVs rolled into Cop Viper just after dawn. No warning, no radio call ahead. They just showed up. I was on the perimeter when they came through the gate. The vehicles were clean, too clean for a war zone. No dust, no scratches like they'd just driven off a lot. 6 men got out. Civilian clothes, but the way they moved screamed military. Or intelligence. They didn't talk to anyone, didn't check in with Edwards. They just walked straight into the operations center like they owned the place. Martinez and I exchanged looks. "Who the hell are they?" he asked. "No idea," I said, "but I don't like it." An hour later, Edwards called another briefing. This time, one of the men from the SUVs was with him. Tall, maybe late 40s, graying hair, wearing khakis and a polo shirt like he was on vacation. But his eyes were cold, sharp. "This is Mr. Garrett," Edwards said, though I could tell from his tone he didn't like the guy. "He's with the Defense Intelligence Agency. He's here to handle the situation." Garrett stepped forward. "Gentlemen," he said, his voice calm, almost bored, "I understand you've been experiencing some unusual activity. I'm here to tell you that this activity is now classified. You are not to discuss what you've seen with anyone outside this room. You are not to log any further sightings unless instructed to do so. And you are not to engage with any unidentified objects or entities. Is that clear?" Nobody spoke. I said, "Is that clear?" Garrett repeated, his voice harder now. "Yes, sir," a few guys muttered. Garrett nodded. "Good. My team will be taking over monitoring duties for the next 72 hours. You will continue your regular patrols, but if you see anything, you report it directly to me. Not your captain, not your sergeant, me." He turned and walked out, his team following behind him. The room was silent. Finally, Jackson spoke up. "What the hell was that?" Edwards rubbed his face. "I don't know. But we follow orders, got it?" That night, things got worse. I was in my bunk when the alarm went off. Not the mortar alarm, the perimeter breach alarm. Everyone scrambled, grabbed weapons, body armor, helmets. We ran outside expecting an attack, but there was nothing. No gunfire, no movement, no enemy. Just Garrett and his team, standing near the south wall, looking at something on a tablet. "What's going on?" Edwards shouted as he ran up to them. Garrett didn't even look up. "Sensor malfunction," he said. "We're handling it." "That wasn't a malfunction," I said, before I could stop myself. "That was a breach." Garrett finally looked at me. His eyes were like ice. "Soldier, I suggest you get back to your post." Edwards grabbed my arm. "Let's go," he said quietly. As we walked away, I looked back. Garrett was staring at the wall, at the exact spot where we'd seen the thermal signature 2 nights before. He knew. He knew exactly what was out there, and he wasn't telling us. The next morning, one of Garrett's team was gone. Just disappeared. His guys said he'd been reassigned, but nobody believed that. We all saw the look on their faces. They were spooked. That afternoon, Martinez pulled me aside. "I don't know what's going on," he said, "but I don't think we're safe here anymore." "What do you mean?" "I mean, whatever's out there, it's getting closer. And those guys aren't here to protect us. They're here to study it." I wanted to tell him he was wrong, but I couldn't, because deep down I knew he was right. I was in the guard tower when it happened. It was just past midnight. Clear sky, no wind. The kind of night where sound carries for miles. I was scanning the perimeter with the thermal optic, doing my usual sweep when the screen went white. Not static, not a malfunction, just pure white. Like every heat source within a mile had suddenly maxed out the sensor. I pulled my eye away from the optic, blinking away the afterimage. And that's when I saw it. About 300 meters out, hovering maybe 10 feet off the ground, was one of the objects. But this time I could see it with my naked eye. It wasn't black anymore. It was glowing, a dull, pulsing orange like heated metal. The air around it shimmered, distorting everything behind it like I was looking through water. And then it started to descend, slowly, deliberately, like it was being lowered by invisible cables. "Tower 1 to operations," I said into my radio, trying to keep my voice steady. "We have contact. South perimeter, 300 meters. Object is descending. Static. Operations, do you copy?" More static. Then Chen's voice tight and stressed. "Copy, Tower 1. We see it on thermal. Stand by." "Stand by? Stand by for what?" The object touched the ground. The glow faded, and for a moment, everything was silent. Even the generators seemed quieter, like the whole base was holding its breath. Then the air changed. I can't explain it better than that. It felt heavier, like the pressure had dropped. My ears popped. The hair on my arms stood up. And I felt that same electrical current I'd felt before, but stronger now. It wasn't just in the air, it was in my bones. "Tower 1, Chen's voice crackled. "You are not to engage. I repeat, do not engage." "I'm not doing anything," I said. "But someone needs to tell me what I'm looking at." Before Chen could respond, another voice came through. "Garrett, all personnel stand down. This is the observation-only situation. No one fires unless I give the order." I wanted to argue. I wanted to ask what the hell we were supposed to do if that thing came through the wall. But I didn't. I just stood there, weapon ready, watching. The object sat there for maybe 5 minutes, just sitting, glowing faintly. And then a door opened. Not a door like you'd see on a plane or a vehicle. It just appeared. 1 second the surface was smooth, seamless. The next, there was an opening. A rectangle of deeper darkness against the faint glow. Something moved inside. I raised my rifle, finger on the trigger, heart hammering in my chest. "Tower 1, do not engage," Garrett's voice said again. "There's something coming out," I said. "I know, do not engage." A figure stepped out of the opening, humanoid. 2 arms, 2 legs, a head. But the proportions were wrong. Too tall, too thin. The limbs were too long. The joints bent at angles that didn't make sense. It stood there for a moment, completely still, like it was listening, or maybe watching. I couldn't tell if it had eyes. The darkness made it hard to see details, but I swear I saw something reflective where its face should have been. Then it moved. Not walked, moved, like it was gliding across the sand without actually stepping. It covered 50 meters in seconds, heading straight toward the perimeter wall. "Operations. It's approaching the wall," I said, my voice cracking. "What do I do?" "Hold your fire," Garrett said. "It's almost at the wall." I said, "Hold your fire." The figure stopped about 10 feet from the wall. Just stood there. And then it turned its head, or what I assumed was its head, and looked directly at me. I felt it. I can't explain how, but I felt its attention lock onto me. It was like standing in front of a spotlight, except the light was inside my skull. Every thought I had felt exposed, like it was reading me. My hands were shaking. My finger was still on the trigger. One squeeze. That's all it would take. "Don't," a voice said. Not on the radio. In my head. I jerked back, nearly dropping my rifle. "What the—" The figure turned away, gliding back toward the object. The door was still open. It stepped inside, and the opening sealed shut, leaving no trace it had ever been there. The glow faded. The object lifted off the ground, silent as ever, and shot into the sky. 1 second it was there, the next gone. I stood in the tower, breathing hard, my hands still shaking. "Tower 1, report," Chen's voice said. I didn't answer. I couldn't. 10 minutes later, Edwards and Garrett were at the tower. Garrett climbed up, his face unreadable. "What did you see?" he asked. "You know what I saw," I said. "I need you to tell me anyway." So I did. I told him about the landing, the figure, the way it moved, and then I told him about the voice. Garrett's expression didn't change. He just nodded, like I'd confirmed something he already knew. "Did it say anything else?" he asked. "No, just don't." Garrett looked out at the desert, his jaw tight. "You did the right thing," he said quietly. "If you'd fired, we'd all be dead." "What is it?" I asked. "What are they?" He didn't answer. He just climbed down from the tower and walked away. The next day, Garrett and his team packed up and left. No explanation, no debrief. They just got in their SUVs and drove out through the gate. Edwards called us together one last time. He looked exhausted, defeated. "Whatever you saw, whatever you think you saw, it's classified," he said. "You don't talk about it. You don't write about it. You don't even think about it. Unless you want to spend the rest of your career in Leavenworth. Are we clear?" We all nodded. What else could we do? But I knew. We all knew. This wasn't over. For the next 2 weeks, nothing happened. No sightings. No thermal signatures. No objects in the sky. It was like they'd just disappeared. But I couldn't shake the feeling that they were still out there, watching, waiting. And then, one night, I was doing a final patrol before my shift ended. The sun was just starting to rise, painting the desert orange and pink. I looked up at the sky, and for just a second I saw it, a faint shimmer like heat waves moving against the wind. And I knew they hadn't left. They'd just learned how to hide better. For the next few days, the objects kept appearing. Different times, different locations around the perimeter, always on thermal, always just outside the walls. Garrett's team was still there, monitoring everything, but they weren't telling us anything. They'd set up their own equipment in the operations center, locked us out of half our own systems. We were basically prisoners in our own base. Then, 3 nights after the landing, it happened again. I was on patrol with Jackson when we heard it over the radio. Multiple thermal contacts, all around the perimeter. Not 1 or 2, 7, maybe 8. All personnel. "Return to the operations center immediately." Garrett's voice came through. "Do not engage. I repeat, do not engage." We ran back. The entire base was on alert, but nobody was at their fighting positions. We were all being pulled inside, away from the walls. When we got to the operations center, Edwards was arguing with Garrett. "My men need to know what's happening," Edwards was saying, his voice tight with frustration. "Your men need to follow orders," Garrett shot back. "This situation is under control." "Under control? There are 8 unidentified contacts surrounding us." Garrett stepped closer to Edwards, his voice dropping. "Captain, if your men fire on those objects, we will have a hostile contact situation that neither you nor I can control. Those things out there, they're not hostile. But they will be if we provoke them. So you're going to stand down, and you're going to keep your soldiers inside until this is over. Understood?" Edwards looked like he wanted to punch him, but he didn't. "Understood," he said through gritted teeth. We waited inside for 3 hours. Nobody spoke. We just sat there listening to the radios, watching Garrett's team work their equipment. And then, just before dawn, the contacts disappeared. All of them, at once. Garrett checked his screens, made a phone call, and then turned to Edwards. "We're leaving," he said. "This location is being decommissioned. You'll receive orders within 24 hours. "That's it?" Edwards asked. You're just leaving? My job here is done, Garrett said. He looked at all of us, his expression unreadable. You all did well. You followed orders. You didn't fire. That's the only reason you're still alive. And then he walked out. 2 days later, we got the orders. Cop Viper was being shut down. Strategic realignment, they called it. We all knew better. Before we left, Edwards pulled me aside. He handed me the NDA, watched me sign it. You know what they were, don't you? I asked him. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, No, but I know we weren't meant to fight them. We were meant to be tested. Tested for what? I don't know, he said. But we passed. I left Iraq 2 months later. Honorable discharge. I tried to go back to normal, but I couldn't. Because late at night, when everything is quiet, I still feel it. That pressure in the air. That electrical hum. And I know they're still out there. Still watching.